I'm here today with Brian Wellinghoff, who leads the consulting arm of Barry Waymiller's Chapman Co. Leadership Institute. And we're actually sitting here live at the Association for Manufacturing Excellence Conference in St. Louis, where Barry Waymiller is headquartered. I'm super curious to hear how your relationship with AME started, and how Barry Waymiller's philosophy of truly human leadership really is infused into AME's philosophy. I can say after being at this conference for a couple of days, I see a lot of parallels with your philosophy and what they're trying to build here.
Well, there are a lot of parallels, and it's great to meet you alongside the conference. We found a quiet space because there's so much energy and enthusiasm around these ideas of people-centric leadership and enterprise excellence. And so that's what drew Barry Wehmiller to the sphere of influence of AME more than a decade ago. I got the chance to facilitate about a dozen of the board members and senior leaders of AME a while ago towards trying to come up with, well, what's the vision that can really drive AME to the next point? We came up with this statement about a manufacturing renaissance that couples people-centric leadership with enterprise excellence. I think there's a lot of tension in some people's minds between those two things, people-centric leadership and enterprise excellence. But we actually believe that the best things happen when those two are in harmony. We call it inside our organization people and performance in harmony. When we care for people, they are more curious, they're more open, they're more empathetic, they come up with new ideas, they collaborate more effectively. Well, guess what? Those are all critical aspects of a continuous improvement journey and of achieving real enterprise excellence in a business. We've seen it firsthand in our own business, and we've seen it in other AME partners over the years. At the same time, when we drive enterprise excellence, when we perform, when we meet the needs of customers, we provide growth opportunities for team members in our organizations. We give them a chance to try new skills, to get economic benefit with ongoing employment and growth with us, to solve problems on their own to make their workplaces better. And that was really at the heart of grounding that purpose statement in the harmony of those two great ideas.
I love that. And I'm really feeling the marriage between people-centric culture and the tools and the technical side of continuous improvement. Every session I've been in this week has mentioned the importance of both and how you can't have one without the other. What has your experience been as you've really embedded truly human leadership as a philosophy in Barry Waymiller, but also outside the walls of Barry Waymiller in other companies? How have you seen that actually play out? Do you have a specific example that has really inspired you?
Well, absolutely. So we've just completed our 145th acquisition over the last 20 years. And so we have this common process of bringing new people, new organizations with good histories into our family of organizations. And the reason that's really important is because the first thing that people tell us, we get on site, we engage with people in what we call listening sessions, relatively small groups of people so they can actually understand and ask questions about the message. Who are we really? The first thing they want is to believe that they can trust us along the way. But the second thing they really want is, all right, are you committed to this business and these group of people that are here doing things together? And that's where we get the chance to actually demonstrate truly human leadership. I do a lot of outreach with colleges and universities because how we talk about leadership and how we develop ourselves as leaders is so critical. But at the same time, leadership isn't some esoteric idea that we read in a book or, write a paper about. It's real life engagement each and every day. And that makes it real leadership along the way. And that's what we try to do with truly human leadership is not just be a book to read, though books help, and not just to have it be a paper that's posted on a website, though papers help. It's about how do we give people the skills and the human interaction to really help them actually practice these skills. I was actually talking to an academic earlier today, and he asked me, well, what makes your approach to truly human leadership different? And I said, it comes from actual practice. When we went into a new acquisition in Phillips, Wisconsin, and we had people there who were really skeptical about what our leadership would be. And I'd specifically highlight the example of Randall Fleming. This gentleman I've gotten to know personally. He self-described himself as the Darth Vader of the gateway department, where they cut steel and make things for manufacturing big machines. And Randall didn't want to have anything to do with us. And it was only over time that he made the personal change to be open, and we had the patience and the ways to invite him to be part of what we do. He's now one of my best friends in the company. He went on to teach inspiration to leaders in our organization. And then he, of his own choice, moved later when we had a new acquisition. He wanted to be part of leading the process of bringing our culture to another place. When someone like Randall is invited into this and then responds with his own sense of self to do that, the outcomes are just tremendous and they're very personally gratifying.
I absolutely love that story. And Bob Chapman, the former CEO of Barry Waymiller, he talked about that story in our conversation. And I loved that he referenced how he dealt with Randall was courageous patience. And I think he stole that term from William Ury, who's a professional mediator, who witnessed what was happening in Barry Waymiller. And I believe his exact words were something like, I am witnessing world peace in this manufacturing facility.
Well, I was
Which
present at
is
that meeting with Bill Ury, and it really struck both Bob and I. It's like, what do you mean? You negotiate peace between nations and rival groups and things. How could you find it here? But the simple aspect of it is we find peace between nations, between teams, between companies, between individuals when we come to a space where we can listen to each other with dignity, try to empathize with the perspective that someone else has, and then discuss things in an amicable manner. And that order is important. If we don't start with actually listening to people, it's very challenging to empathize with them, and it's very challenging to find conversation together. I find that in our country of the United States right now, there's lots of different factions and different things, and it's difficult to find space where we can talk together. Ironically, we find in our businesses, that's where people can find common ground. Maybe it's just easier to talk about how to refine a process or produce a piece of machinery or get the documentation out for a sale, even though those are contentious processes in a lot of our organizations today. But we found that when we teach people to listen, we give them the experience of being listened to, and then we give them the tools of continuous improvement to help make it better. They solve problems on their own, and they feel more engaged and fulfilled for the process.
I love that philosophy, and it sounds like such a simple thing. Oh, we need to listen. Honing those skills opens the door to so much possibility. Just this morning in the keynote, the speaker had us all kind of go around and network with people. He asked us to all find a commonality with our colleagues. And you know what? That requires just sitting there and listening and asking questions, being curious. You just told me a few minutes ago, curiosity opens that door to empathy. And I think we're just not taking the time to do that. And if we did, imagine the bridges we could build.
Well, that's the most common thing that I hear when we teach truly human leadership is, I don't have the time. And the fascinating thing is it doesn't matter if it's in the United States or somewhere else. It doesn't matter if it's a senior leader or someone at the front lines of the business. It doesn't matter if you're in manufacturing or in the office, whatever it might be, people talk about time. I like to speak of time as the currency of leadership. Time isn't everything that has to do with leadership. There are so many great skills, but it's really the currency, that daily interaction, kind of cash moving back and forth, because it says a lot about what we value and what we choose to focus on based on where we spend our time. You and I only have 24 hours in a day. We've only got so many minutes in our lifetimes. It's a scarce resource for all of us. And so how we spend that time is really important. Now, on one hand, we can use the tools of continuous improvement to help free up time to do more value-added activities. At the same time, we need to have the discernment as leaders to focus our time where it has the greatest impact and value. We talk about that as the work of leadership, that a leader doesn't just answer emails and file paperwork and host meetings. Leaders need to develop their team. They need to work on the business with new strategic thoughts, and they need to work on themselves. We need to do work. We need to go to conferences. We need to listen to podcasts. We need to read articles to keep educating and growing ourselves along the way. But when we get caught too much in the 10 meetings that I have, I typically have 8 to 10 meetings a day running between each of them. If we don't take the time to pause, to focus on what's really important, or to deselect, do I really have to be at that meeting today? Or do I need to spend that time somewhere else? Then we lose the opportunity to have the greatest power from our leadership.
I love that, and I think it's a testament to you being here. The fact that you normally have 8 to 10 meetings a day, you took the time to drive here and be with me today. I'm honored. I'm grateful for this time. The takeaway message that I'm hearing here is let's take time to self-reflect as leaders.
Mm.
How are we spending our time? And does it really connect with our core values as humans? Is this really what I want to be doing, and how is it translating to my team and taking care of my team? So I don't want to give away much more because I know our next conversation will be much more in depth. And for those of you listening, we're going to dig in with Brian on their work with academia and how they're really building the future leaders of tomorrow, where change and resilience is involved and how that connects to truly human leadership. I know that was a big topic at this morning's keynote. So stay tuned for the full episode and the full conversation. But for now, thank you for listening. And Brian, thank you so much for being here and joining me at AME.
It's been a great pleasure.